Hello and welcome to Lunchtime Politics on Channels Television. I'm Millicent Walker. On the news this hour, President Muhammadu Buhari is back in Nigeria after his trip to Jordan and Dubai. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo presiding over the Federal Executive Council meeting. The Independent National Electoral Commission to conduct governorship elections in Kogi and Bayelsa states on November the 2nd, 2019. We find out more from the umpire. And some North Central elders are speaking up on the leadership of the House of Representatives. Hello and welcome to the program, everyone. President Muhammadu Buhari is back in Nigeria. He arrived at Abuja, the nation's capital, yesterday evening from Dubai after visiting Jordan and the United Arab Emirates. The president left Dubai after meeting with some Nigerians, and in that country, the president was a guest speaker at the 9th annual investment meeting, which held in Dubai, where he asked all world leaders to come up with proposals to create a digital world that is safe and also accessible. The weekly Federal Executive Council meeting holding at the Presidential Villa with the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, presiding. Now let's get some insight with regards to what to expect from the seat of power today. Our State House correspondent, Ibrahim Adra, is there for us. Ibrahim.
Hello, Millicent. Well, Abuja is still sunny, even though there are clouds, but we're still going through that very harsh weather. Now, I can confirm that the president returned yesterday at about past midnight after those trips to Jordan and then to Dubai. You recall that in Jordan, the president was ruining the gap that existed, that is the socio-economic gap that existed between the people. And the president believes that's what fueled terrorism. And so he was calling on countries to work together towards ensuring that this gap is reduced. And then when he went to Dubai, it was more of a business opportunity for the country, as the president spoke with different groups. About 6 of them we gather. And then the call, in summary, is that everyone should come and take advantage of the business climate that existed in the country to invest. There is this popular quote in the statement that was revealed, "Come ye, come all, and prosper." That was what the president was telling investors in Dubai. Well, he's back in the country now, but the Federal Executive Council meeting is also underway. However, the president is not presiding at the moment as we speak, as the vice president is chairing that meeting. He may be joining later, we don't know for a fact, and then there is no agenda for that meeting. But it's safe to assume that perhaps they'll be discussing the security challenges in the country. Recall that the government activated a security response to the banditry and kidnapping, especially in the northwest of the country, with Operation Puff Adder, which the IGP, that's the Inspector General of Police, told media men that has commenced on Sunday, and is also saying that mining in Zamfara has to stop for them to be able to do their job properly. I'm not saying for a fact, but then this might come up in that meeting. You know how the meeting is done usually. There are no agenda that is disclosed to the journalists, but then at the end of the meeting, we usually get briefings. We're hoping that we'll get that briefing also later in the day, and we'll bring you up to speed as to what's happening. That's the situation at the moment here at the Presidential Villa. It's back to you, Millicent.
Many thanks. Our State House correspondent, Ibrahim Adra, with the latest there at the Federal Executive Council meeting taking place about now. In the meantime, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, says it will conduct elections in the 2 states on November the 2nd, 2019, and talking about Kogi and Bayelsa State. According to a statement released and signed by INEC's National Commissioner on Information and Voter Education, Mr. Festus Okoye, the exercise will happen on the same day in both states. The electoral umpire has also released details for the elections, scheduled for the elections. First, the agenda will be the notice of election, which will be released on the 1st of August 2019, while party primaries will hold from the 2nd of August to the 29th. Political party campaigns are to begin on the 2nd of August and end on the 31st of October 2019, while names of candidates are expected to be submitted latest on the 2nd of October 2019. But let's hear more from the electoral umpire and their plans for these two elections. I'm now being joined by the INEC National Commissioner on Voter Education and Publicity, Mr. Festus Okoye. I believe he is in our Abuja studios. I'd like to thank you very much for joining us at this time and ask why are both elections taking place on the same day?
Well, we made a determination that we should hold both elections on the same day. This is because this election is end of tenure election. For the Kogi governorship election, the tenure of the governor will expire on the 26th day of January, while that of the Bayelsa will expire on the 13th day of February 2020. Section 178, subsection 1 and 2 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and Section 25, subsection 7 and 8 of the Electoral Act 2010 as amended enjoins the Commission to hold these elections not earlier than 150 days before the expiration of the tenure and not later than 30 days. So we made a determination that if we are going to hold these elections, we are going to hold them between November and December. So the Commission determined that the best thing to do in the circumstance will be to maximize our efforts and maximize our resources and hold these two elections on the same day. Now, these two elections, as you know, are very difficult elections, and there are two elections that will be coming immediately after the conduct of the 2019 general elections and the supplementary elections that we have had. So the Commission will conduct a review of these processes and procedures between May and June, draw lessons from what happened during the 2019 general elections and the supplementary elections, and use those lessons to improve on the conduct of the Kogi and Bayelsa governorship elections. So that's the reason why we scheduled these two elections for the same day.
Okay, you just mentioned that they are going to be quite difficult elections. I wanted you to give us more detail when you say difficult elections, Kogi and Bayelsa.
These two elections are going to be more or less like two standalone elections. The political parties that have won elections are already in place. So the attention of the Nigerian people and the attention of the international community will be focused on these two states at the same time. So we envisage that the political parties are going to mass their energy and their resources towards these two states. And if you look at the history of some of these two states and the history of some of the elections we have conducted in these two states, you will find out that we have recorded very serious cases of electoral violence and electoral malfeasance. So the Independent National Electoral Commission is going to do an assessment, a thorough assessment of these two states in terms of security threat assessment, and we're also going to look at our processes and procedures to make sure that we improve on our processes and procedures and conduct a very, very good election in these two states. So the implication is that, one, the Commission will also conduct continuous voters registration exercise specifically for these two states to make sure that those that were not previously captured are captured. Secondly, we are going to also commence the distribution of permanent voters cards in these two states to make sure that as many people as possible collect their permanent voters cards. And we're also going to look at our ad hoc staff recruitment processes and procedures and review them to make sure that we have the best. And then review the method of recruitment of our collation officers. So we want to get Bayelsa and Kogi right. And we also want to take on board some of the lessons from the 2019 general elections and the supplementary elections and make sure that if there is lacuna, if there are gaps, and if there are loopholes, that we plug them before we get to these two states. So that's exactly what the Commission is doing. And that's why we released the timetable and schedule of activities on time, so that some of the activities that we need to do before the elections, we carry them out, and we are not inhibited by any form of time constraint.
Mr. Kogi, permit me to be a bit skeptical, especially with Bayelsa. We know that past elections in that state have been pretty stormy. I mean, we've had dynamite attacks on political headquarters, we've had intra-party violence, and this is from the primaries, campaigns, run-up to the election day. So a lot of people are wondering, especially the role the military will be playing, and how really prepared can we say the commission is to handle all of these issues this time around? Bayelsa, as an example.
Well, we are going to hold a very robust and honest discussion with the leadership of the various security agencies on time before we even begin preparations for Bayelsa and the Kogi elections. We are also going to make sure that some of the lessons from the conduct of the National Assembly elections and the State Assembly elections from these two states are also taken on board as we prepare for the conduct of those elections. They are going to be very difficult elections, no doubt, but I really believe that if we engage the political parties well, engage with the security agencies, engage with civil society groups and organizations, and also engage with the media and other critical stakeholders, we are going to get things right. But the political parties must realize that violence cannot produce credible elections. And we are also going to be urging all the security agencies to be professional and ethical in approaching the Kogi and Bayelsa elections. And if all of us work symbiotically and believe that the will of the people must prevail and their votes must count, we will get very credible elections in both Kogi and Bayelsa states.
About the courts, for example, and this is also on perhaps the electoral outcomes flowing from the past general elections. Will you say that perhaps the courts have been dragged into the political arena too often, such that it might affect, the judiciary and its credibility?
Well, the courts are a necessary component of the democratic process. The framers of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria are fully aware that mistakes can be made within the electoral process and in the conduct of the elections. They are also aware that there's a possibility that those who are not qualified to contest elections may sneak in and go and contest. So the courts are there to make sure that those who go to represent people are those who are representing through the genuine votes of the people. So the courts are necessary. But having said that, I also want to say that it is important for us to take a second look at the timeline for the filing and determination of pre-election disputes, because up to this particular moment, the Commission is still receiving court judgments and court orders emanating from pre-election matters. And I think that this is really not good enough. We should have some level of certainty. So we need to look at the electoral legal framework and see whether we can further adjust the timelines for the determination of pre-election disputes, so that all pre-election disputes will be determined at least for 60 to 45 days before the conduct of elections, so that we can have some level of certainty as we go into the printing of ballot papers and printing of other sensitive and even non-sensitive materials for the conduct of elections. So, but having said that, I believe that the courts are doing the duties and exercising the powers assigned to them by the law and the Constitution, and there's no contradiction between what the courts are doing and what the Commission is doing.
If you can, very briefly, tell us about maybe PVC collections, so some of the lessons learned in the 2015 elections and that improvement you'll be making for Kogi and Bayelsa on November the 2nd.
Well, as the Commission progressed with the issue of PVC collection, we didn't record the type of successes we thought we would record. This is because so many of our people wait till the last day before rushing to go and collect their PVCs. But this time around, we are going to engage in robust civic and voter education, and we are going to collaborate with the National Orientation Agency, with the media, with civil society groups and organizations, and with all the other critical stakeholders in making sure that we carry out very good continuous voters registration exercise, and also in making sure that we sensitize our people in relation to the collection of PVCs. So we are going to engage them. We are going to do roadshows. We are going to go to the markets. We are going to go to the churches and to every other place where Nigerians can be found to sensitize them on the necessity of collecting these PVCs well ahead of the elections, so that we don't have a rush and a deluge as we proceed to the elections.
All right.
But for Kogi and Bayelsa, we are going to do statewide CVR and also sensitize people on the necessity of collecting their PVCs ahead of the elections.
Thank you so much.
We have all these things under control, and we are going to roll out a very clear timeline for the collection of PVCs the moment we finish with our review of the 2019 general elections in May and in June.
All right, Mr. Festus Okoye, many thanks for joining us. INEC appears to be going all out this time around. Well, still to come on the program, face-off between lawmakers and PENCOM officials. Find out why when we return.